What's up, everybody? It is Rustbeard, and today, we are going to be ranking the Wrath of the Lich King dungeons. As usual, we're going to be doing this in the form of a tier list, just like we did the Burning Crusade and the classic dungeons in previous videos. That being said, keep in mind, these are all opinionated, these are all my own opinion, these are all personal preference, the ones that I liked the most, the ones that I had stories and stuff that I like to tell from Wrath of the Lich King era dungeons. Alright, let's go ahead and get into it, ranking the Wrath of the Lich King dungeons. Alright, first things first, Enkahet, the Old Kingdom. I think out of the Nerubian style dungeons that are on this list, I'm gonna put this one in C tier, or B tier, sorry, because Ajal Nerub I think is gonna be in C tier. Now hear me out. One, my biggest complaint about Ajal Nerub is it's way too short. It's too short, and I think for that reason alone, it feels like I've ran it a lot. Assuming I'm not getting those two mixed up. I'm pretty sure that's the short one with the big ramp that goes down with the giant spider boss at the bottom with the web and shit, but it is very cool. It's a fun dungeon. But the reason I would put it here in C instead of B, other than the fact that I just like Enkahet more, is because that final boss, at least currently in its current state, because we're just so overpowered at whatever level you're running it, even if it's time walking, is such a pain in the ass. Just let me kill you. Stop going under the ground. It is so frustrating to deal with that last boss, especially if you're just trying to just blast through dungeons, you know what I mean? Which I guess is a minor complaint. You can't really complain that they're enforcing their their mechanics that they worked hard to put into the boss fight, but still, there should be a way around it at max level, or if you're doing time walking, they should like lower the time that bro is under the ground. That would just help so much. Okay, Culling of Stratholme. Culling of Stratholme, story-wise and narrative-wise, I would put it in A. But because it is one of those time-gated, like, really slow-paced things that you gotta do, I'm gonna put it in C. And I don't know if I'm gonna get flack for that. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what people's general consensus of the Culling of Stratholme is, but any dungeons, not just this one, but any dungeons that the NPC you were following has not learned its fast mount training for, especially the one with Thrall. God, it just takes so long. It's just so droning to sit there and listen to him talk and wait, and then have to pull specific amounts of mobs and so forth. I don't know if it's still a problem currently, but I remember running Culling of Stratholme to get the Golden Drake mount or something like that, which you have to like complete it with a certain amount of time and get to that last boss around the corner or whatever. And every time I'm playing with a new player or somebody that's new to the game or whatever, and I always try to get them something cool, and that's an easy one for me to get them because it's a guaranteed drop as long as you beat the timer. And everybody likes a cool free mount. I mean, it's just one of those things. But I remember trying to get through Culling one time with this dude that I was just trying to get this mount for, and it kept on bugging out because we were going too fast. It kept bugging out, and we had to like restart the dungeon, and oh my god, it was so frustrating. And again, I feel like there could be a workaround for max level players. By all means, like during the leveling process, I don't want it to be sped up by any stretch, because obviously that creates a whole void of content. Is if you just streamline all your dungeons and stuff, then what's the point? But for max level players that are just going through it to farm it or whatever, Personally, I think there should be a way to turn that off, or at least speed it up or something. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Draktherin Keep. Let's see. I will put Draktherin Keep in B tier because I like the trolls. I like the trolls a lot. The trolls are my guys, man. I don't know. The trolls are really cool. Also, I just got into a discussion on a comment thread on a Facebook post that I commented on the other day about Bwansamdi, just speaking of trolls. And dude, people are popping off. People are loving it. I don't know what it is, but everybody loves Bwansamdi, man. We need more Bwansamdi. All right, I love that dude so much. But anyway, Draktherin Keep for sure. I remember having fond memories running this in Pandaria, actually, when I was leveling characters and stuff in Pandaria. I think that this one was one of my favorites to get when I got to the Wrath of the Lich King queue. For sure, I loved it. Forge of Souls. I think Forge of Souls is probably... I'm going to go ahead and put Forge of... I think, actually, you know what? We're going to switch it up. I think Forge of Souls would go to B, and I think Draktherin would go to A. Because I do have fond memories of running Draktherin, and Forge of Souls is fuzzy, honestly. I don't remember a lot of me running it. Like, I remember the dungeon, I just don't remember running it a whole lot. Especially not when it was current, like a current dungeon tier, you know? But I don't know why that one fell under my radar, but anyway, Gundrak. Gundrak, I'm gonna put up into A with Draktherin, and that's because this is one of those dungeons that I get in the dungeon queue a lot, but I love the fact that there are ways to circumvent, like, the main path. I love the fact that you can jump off the edge and like swim across the water there to go up that little walkway, and after you click the pillars, the stone pillars that come up out of the ground or whatever, you can go past them and just swim up the little hill there. I think that stuff's really fun to have in dungeons. I think that dungeons in general should have more stuff like that, to where you can just like circumvent the normal path, you know what I mean? Go the path less traveled and whatnot. Which I guess in this case, it's the path most traveled now because everybody does it. But my point is, it's fun to find little ways around what the devs had initially created to be this specific path and so forth, or ways that you can get around certain trash mobs and so forth. I think stuff like that in dungeons should just happen all the time. And I love it. But also, I love the trolls. Okay, Halls of Lightning, I'm going to put in B tier. Halls of Stone, I'm going to put in A tier. Because Halls of Stone, I distinctly remember often where we'd get to that point in the dungeon where you're standing on that platform or whatever, waiting on Bran to open up this like control panel or something like that, and those big beams and stuff were shooting down at you, and then the waves of dwarves and earthen and stuff like that are coming at you. Any other time, that would annoy the piss out of me. I feel like that would just be so long and dragged out. I'm sure that there probably are instances where I did feel that way, but for whatever reason, I have fond memories of just bullshitting with friends or whatever I was running the dungeon with, or even randoms where we'd be sitting there waiting on Bran and just plowing through these mobs like it was nothing, and we would just like sit there and bullshit. I don't know why that specific spot was pivotal in us like discussing stuff or talking or just kind of bullshitting about our lives or whatever, but it was, and I don't know. I think that was always just a cool little chill spot for absolutely no reason, when literally any other time it would have driven me absolutely insane, having to sit there and wait after plowing through these mobs, sitting there for a bit, plowing through some more mobs, sitting there for a bit, and so forth. So I don't know. I don't get it. Halls of Reflection, I'm going to put into A tier. A tier because it's just iconic. It's just, as a matter of fact, I would probably put it in S tier. It's iconic. It's got a really cool feel to it. It's got that classic Lich King aesthetic to it. Of course, the The Sylvanas stuff was in my opinion at its peak during this point in WoW's life cycle. I think that just seeing Frostmourne in the Halls of Reflection made me just really, really love the overall feeling of the dungeon as a whole. And I don't even remember running it like a lot, to be honest with you. I just remember the times I did run it. I distinctly remember feeling like really, really cool. It was just a really cool feel over the whole thing, and I think that's why I would put it in S tier over some of these other ones. The Oculus, F tier. Terrible, no good, horrible, very bad day. Anytime I got the Oculus in any capacity, even knowing the fights and knowing the layout of it, because I've ran it so many times, it does not matter how many times you've ran it. It doesn't matter how many times you tell people this is what you have to do in this scenario. They will find a way to zug it up. Period. And it just blows my mind how much of a pain in the ass it is. But yeah, Oculus, awesome on paper, terrible in execution. Let's just put it that way. Pit of Sauron, probably C tier, honestly. I don't really have too many bad memories of Pit, but I also feel like it's kind of forgettable. You know what I mean? Like, it's not one that you remember as much as some of these other ones. Like, even the Oculus, for example, you don't really think of Pit of Sauron as much as you would the Oculus, even for negative connotations. You know what I mean? I would put it in C tier as like a mid thing. Like, I'm not happy that I got the dungeon, but I'm also not pissed. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, we'll get to this real quick. No big deal. Okay, the Nexus. The Nexus, in my opinion, is one of the most aesthetically pleasing dungeons. The very vibrant, saturated blue and, like, arcane stuff is just really, really cool. I personally like the Nexus quite a bit. I do know a lot of people that don't like the Nexus, and I'm not entirely certain why, but I don't mind any of the fights. I liked the aesthetic of it, probably more than I like a lot of the aesthetics of some of these, but it just feels like it's made of raw magic, the whole thing, and I think that's what they're trying to portray, obviously, but even the little forest bit in the middle with like all the ice and like arcane looking treants and satyrs and stuff like that, or whatever, the whole feeling of it is really cool, but also the dragonkin and all those, everything about it I think is just kind of a really cool aesthetic. It's not something I would put myself in personally a lot because it is so heavily saturated in blue, but as far as the what the dungeon is trying to tell you, and the fact that they did that very well, in my opinion, that just feels like it is what they're trying to produce, is really cool to me. So I put it in A tier. I liked it in the Nexus, but maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm biased because I remember doing that one quite a bit, and I remember having some fond memories in it as well, especially when I got my buddies. When I lived in Virginia, we had like little mini laptop LAN parties and shit, and I remember we ran the Nexus a lot. It was a good time. It was a good time. I liked it. Trial of the Champion. Trial of the Champion, D tier. I don't like it. I don't like Trial of the Champion. I'm honestly not overly fond of Trial of the Crusader either, so Jesus, I don't know. I don't have much to say about it. I just am not a fan. Not a fan. Utgard Keep. Utgard Keep, I'm gonna put in S tier. Yeah. Honestly, Utgard Pinnacle, I'm also going to put in S tier. I love the Vrykul. I love the aesthetic of all the old Viking shit. And there are also two dungeons that I remember running a lot. And there was a point, I will admit, that at some point or another, those are the only two dungeons I would get in the Dungeon Finder. And it was getting a little irritating, I'm not going to lie. But running those, especially in MOP, in general, for whatever reason, because I was a Blood DK, and I still am a Blood DK, but running those in MOP as a Blood DK tank, you're just annihilating everything. And I'm sure there are ways to do it now, but I just don't play as heavy as I did then. It was just super fun to just have these massive pulls as a Blood DK and just pop off, you know, like I loved it. I thought it was great. Anyway, also the quests that you have to do in Utgard Pinnacle to find all the little trinkets and the goblets and the little things or whatever was really cool. But then you get into the darker end of it where like you start getting into that more crypt looking part where all the Vrykul are like Draugr, you know what I mean, the old Viking zombies and shit, and I love it. Good stuff. Violet Hold Hold's another one of those. It's like time gated and kind of irritating to deal with because you gotta wait for the portal, then you gotta run over and take care of what's in the portal, and you gotta do that like twice before you get a boss one. And it is very frustrating. It's very frustrating. However, I am willing to give Violet Hold at least a B tier because of the fact that it's a cool concept. It's really cool, the randomness, you know, and I don't know if there's a specific way to tell which boss you're gonna get before. Maybe with like the mobs or whatever that spawn. I'm not sure. I don't know off the top of my head. Correct me if I'm wrong, if there's a way you can do that. Anyway, the concept is cool. The idea is cool, but I feel like if there was a way to pace it in a way that suited the party that you're going to be running with, like if you're running it and you're just devouring things fast as hell, there should be a way for those portals to spawn maybe faster, maybe multiple at a time, like a little bit more quickly in succession with each other, to just kind of speed up the process a little. Maybe add a couple more portals too. If it is going a little bit too fast, maybe add more portals or an extra boss or something if they're, you know, going through it really quick. I don't know what they could do, but I love the Violet Hold concept. I love the idea of it. I like how it's random and which bosses you get. But oh my god, the time it takes for all the portals to spawn and then for you to defeat the mobs and then wait for the next portal, it is frustrating. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a fan of that aspect of it, but other than that, I love Violet Hold, and I'm glad that they brought it back in with Legion, I believe, and the new version of it, in my opinion, is a little bit more bearable as far as the waiting. I think they did kind of pad it out a little bit, but the original one, dude, God, dude, we were in there forever trying to get through those portals and just waves of enemies and stuff. Anyway, yeah, that's my tier list for Wrath of the Lich King dungeons. Okay, well, that'll about do it for ranking the Wrath of the Lich King dungeons. Let me know what you guys think. What is your favorite Wrath of the Lich King dungeon? What is the most fond memory you have within a Wrath of the Lich King dungeon? Also, what's your least favorite Wrath of the Lich King dungeon? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure if you like this video, you give it a giant thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And also make sure you subscribe. Definitely helps out the channel, and I appreciate that a lot. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you all for watching and sticking around this far. I will see you guys in the next one when we rank the Cataclysm dungeons. Peace.